Hey, I'm going to get started this evening by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here this evening. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This is our Sunday evening meditation where each Sunday we come together here in the main hall at 6:30 to be able to guide you guys in a meditation session, just share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha. And then ultimately, I'm just going to open up to whatever questions you guys might have as part of our session together this evening. So welcome to everyone here and welcome to everyone joining online as well. What I'm going to be doing is guiding you in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment. There's other things that you would need besides meditation in order to move the mind to enlightenment, but this meditation is an important part of your practice, but there's much more that you would need. You can't just meditate your way to enlightenment. What enlightenment is it's a mental state that you attain in this life where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's not. It's actually what's going on in your own mind. So it's not your mom and dad that are making you angry. It's not your brothers and sisters that are frustrating you or your boss is annoying you. This isn't actually true. So I'm going to first guide you in a meditation session, then I'm going to share a little bit afterwards to kind of help you understand some of the basics of the teachings of the Buddha. And then, as I mentioned, I'll open up to any and all questions that you'd like to ask as part of our time together. The way that we start our meditation is we start with some chanting to ease the mind into meditation. If you'd like to do the chanting, you're more than welcome to. We have chanting sheets over there on the platform. You're welcome to help yourself to get one, and you can chant along if you like. For those of you guys online, this chanting sheet is on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You just click on free books and you'll be able to see scrolling down towards the bottom that we have the chanting sheet there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So the way that chanting was used during his lifetime was as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite or ritual or ceremony, worship or prayer or any of those kinds of things. If you're seeing any of those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, it's actually not the teachings of the Buddha. He never did any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. His teachings aren't based in belief. It's based in training of your mind. So you won't find any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those things associated with his teachings, because you'll surely see places that do those kinds of things, those are gross misunderstandings of his teachings. But instead, here we actually train the mind. That's what's actually going to help you to get to enlightenment. The chants that you're looking at, if you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think that the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego and arrogance and putting yourself above other people. So an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, they wouldn't put themselves above people and look down on people. They wouldn't judge others like that. They would just consider themselves to be equal to everybody. So I'm sure that the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants himself, but if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these actually came from his students, because the Buddha wouldn't have created these and had his students chant them to him. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And in these 4 positions are things that you would learn as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like building a tool belt that you would use these different tools at different times. And we have various courses and retreats that are available for you at no cost to be able to learn these different positions. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position as a way to get started. So I'll share that with you and kind of give you guys a little bit of pointers on this to be able to help you. But you have opportunity to learn all these other positions at different times because you're going to need them in your journey. In terms of your seated position, there's any way that you would like to sit, you can sit in that way. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit. As long as the body's comfortable. You're not interested in being painful or luxurious, but in the middle where it's comfortable. So you could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. So what I'm going to share with you are just recommendations or suggestions for you to consider, but you find whatever's comfortable for you. So if you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This is going to help soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to cross your legs, you might just do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and can cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. You could put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up, or some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you. And that's true for people who are in a chair or on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. Same thing, you can sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But when I teach over there in the classroom, there's a chair that I sit in where I cross my legs. So that's an option for you too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so you can actively train the mind. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back. Because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So we're going to start with the chanting to ease into the meditation. Then I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'm essentially teaching you or instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and everyone online, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds, especially with the market out here. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. You need to be able to understand you live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing around you, so that the unenlightened mind is actually craving permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. That's the thing about the unenlightened mind, that it lacks the wisdom that things are constantly changing. So if you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear something, you'll get annoyed or frustrated. But if you understand this is the way the world works, that things are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away, when you hear those sounds, you can be at peace and you can be at joy, just understanding that the world is functioning the way it's intended to function. So we're going to be focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, we're going to cut that off and let it go and come back. And you'll see how we do this. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll just open up to whatever questions you guys have at that point. So again, I'm going to do the chanting on the way in. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance after that. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Wat Tung Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up to the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะเกวาโอตังมะเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโอโตภะคะวะติ If you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here. The primary form of training that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment. But you need more than just meditation. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. But you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. The goal of this meditation is to train your mind to let go, because that's the underlying cause of what's producing the feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings are being caused because the mind's holding on. It's craving permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case when they hear the guidance during the meditation to cut off and let go. You're going to have thoughts during your meditation. Even when your mind's enlightened, you'll have thoughts. The difference is that in the unenlightened state, you'll tend to have a bombardment of thoughts where it'll be like thought. You might have had that where you had to keep cutting off and cutting off and cutting off. Maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 times you had to cut off and come back to the breath. This is very common. Or you might have had a thought and you indulged in it, you played with it, you looked at it, you followed it, and next thing you know, you're like 2 or 3 minutes down the road and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back. So this is very common. So if you experience that's normal. In the enlightened mental state, when you have a thought during meditation, you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and let it go, and you'll bring your mind back to the breath. But then you have this quietness and stillness between your thoughts. You'll know that your mind is enlightened as you're gradually making your way towards it. It's going to take multiple years to be able to get to enlightenment. It's not a 1 week thing or a 1 month thing or even a 1 year thing. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. But the qualities of enlightenment are gradually starting to shine through more and more as you're training your mind. It's kind of like if there was the sun and the clouds were in front of of it, as the clouds slowly move away, the rays of the sun are going to slowly start to shine through. It's the same thing with the enlightened mind, that the qualities of enlightenment start to shine through more and more as you're making your journey closer and closer to enlightenment. But you need to understand how the mind is actually causing its own discontent feelings. Because what we tend to do with the lack of wisdom in the unenlightened state is we blame whatever feelings that you're having on other people. That's what the mind tends to do. And what you might do when you're blaming your feelings on other people is you become unskillful in the way that you interact with others. You might push people away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed friends or family members out of your life, thinking that that was going to solve the problem, but you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get irritated, you still get annoyed. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, the speech, and your actions, and this just damages your relationships. Or the third thing you'll do is you might put your expectations on people and try to control them or pressure them or force them to do things your way. The mind thinks, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, then everything will be perfect. So that's what the mind's trying to do by pushing away or being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting its expectations on people, is trying to get people to do things your way. So if you're having difficulties in certain relationships, you might be trying to change other people. You might be trying to get those people to do things your way. And you'll never get to peace this way, because you can't change 8 billion people in the world to do things your way. It's not possible. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. So you need to be able to see that it's your own mind causing these feelings, that it's craving permanence. So you can take like a recent time where you've been angry or frustrated or irritated, because you need to see the truth for yourself. None of these teachings are based in belief. You need to be able to reflect. Look at a recent time, maybe this morning or yesterday, maybe last week, when you were angry or frustrated. What was your mind longing, yearning for? What did you want? What did you expect? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. You would have been excited. You would have pleasant feelings. But because the mind didn't get what it wanted, you experienced some type of painful feeling, maybe like anger, sadness, frustration, or others. You should be able to see this in your own life. And if you can't, let me know, because I'm going to open up for questions here in a bit, and you guys can ask me any and all questions you like. I've had plenty of students ask me questions over the years, needing help to be able to see how it's their own mind that's causing these feelings. Now, surely the people around you might be doing something unwise. That's true. They could truly be doing something that's unwise, but that's not what's causing you to be discontent. It's your mind craving for everybody to do things a certain way. That's the mind's craving for permanence. So I'll just give you one simple example that I oftentimes use, which is if you were driving a brand new car and you saved up a lot of money for this brand new car, and you parked it at a store and you went inside and you came out and there was a scratch on your car. If you get frustrated or irritated in that situation, it's not the scratch that's causing it. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting the car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality, it's not permanent. The car is not going to be permanent. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. And if the mind craves permanence, when you experience this impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. It doesn't like change. That's one of the ways to say this. We can say that the mind craves permanence, but we could also say the mind doesn't like impermanence. That's the unenlightened mind. It doesn't like change. You can look at your life in situations where things were changing. That was some of the most difficult times in your life. Maybe you're changing living locations. Maybe you're changing jobs or occupations. Maybe your relationships were changing. Maybe your boyfriend, girlfriends, husband, wives, you guys were breaking up. This was some of the most challenging times in your life. Maybe when somebody died that was close to you. This is just change. That's all that's occurring. So if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. Or maybe you get really happy when it's sunny outside, but then when it rains, you'll get frustrated or irritated. Again, the only thing that's happened is change. But the mind craves permanence, and that's why it experiences these discontent feelings. So this meditation is training your mind to let go, let go, let go. So in meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up because you're exercising the mind and you're training your mind to let go. But then in day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts, right? You're training your mind in one way, but then you implement this in your day-to-day life in another way, because the meditation training is helping you to have awareness of the mind and to be able to easily let go. Essentially, you're building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to let go. So in meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything. It's just like a professional athlete. If I was a pole vaulter, I might go into the gym and do weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training, but my sport looks very different than what I'm doing in the gym, right? This is the same thing. When you're exercising your mind, you're cutting off everything and everything that's coming up. But in your day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts. So if you have a thought that maybe you'd like to call up your mom, invite her to lunch or go to dinner, and you're like, hey, mom, how you doing? Would you like to go to dinner? You don't need to cut that off in your day-to-day life. That's a wholesome thought. That's practicing generosity. You're going to spend some nice time with your mom. But if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, you should cut that off, right? Because that's going to cause harm. And next thing you know, you're going to be out of a job and you're not going to have a paycheck to be able to support yourself, right? So you like to cut off the unwholesome things that are coming up. And by training your mind with this meditation regularly, it'll be easier and easier for you to do that. Because if you remember when you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you might have been angry or frustrated for a while. You might have been lonely or bored or missing that person. But at some point, your mind let go, and that's where you regained your peace and you regained your joy. But the mind doesn't know how to let go in the unenlightened state. So that's why you're doing this meditation on a regular, ongoing basis to train your mind to let go, let go, let go. And you would like to build up this practice as a daily practice that you're gradually building up to 2 or 3 meditations per day for 30 minutes or more. And that can sound like a lot to some people, depending on what you have going on in your life. But I suspect if you look at your life, you probably have certain things that you're doing that you could kind of shrink those things back because they're maybe unbeneficial for you. You're not getting much benefit out of them. Maybe if you're searching social media for 2, 3, 4 hours a day, you could cut that down to 30 minutes or an hour, right? And now you have more time to actually meditate. Or maybe you're watching endless YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video. You could cut that back a little bit, and then you'd have more time to actually meditate. And you'll see that this will actually be beneficial for you. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, not only have you eliminated all those discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, but you'll notice that your mind's focused, that you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because you've really honed your mind. You really disciplined your mind. You've uprooted the pollutions that are in your mind. So you have this focus and concentration in your mind. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They'll be at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer in your relationships. So your relationships will really be blossoming. You'll get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to actually experience a bad mood because the causes and conditions that are producing that have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. So I'm just going to stop here and see what questions you guys have. We have microphones here throughout the temple. We have one in the front here. There's one in the back. If you guys have questions, just grab a microphone. You press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. Just hold that up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you'd like to keep these microphones with you, you're welcome to, because someone around you might have a question or you might have more than one question. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'd be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And if there's anyone online who would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So do you guys have questions that you'd like to ask about meditation or the teachings of the Buddha, anything you're seeing here in Thailand, anything with the temples, maybe certain challenges you're having in your personal life? Just let me know if you have questions. We have the microphones here for you guys. No questions? You have a question, sir? Yeah, there's a microphone back there. Usually it only takes one, and then there's a whole bunch that come after that.
There we go. My question is, seeing how the mind craves permanence.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Seeing how the mind craves permanence, to what extent should we cultivate a life that embraces that and avoid building routines or building habits or building this familiarity?
Sure.
How to deal with that in our lives?
Sure. So because the mind craves permanence, it's going to want to do things like have a standard routine, or you go to a classroom like this and you want to sit in the same exact spot every time, right? Or if you're in a bus tour, you want to sit in exactly the same seat every single time. That's what the mind does, and you don't even realize that it's doing that. So what you would like to do is you'd like to implement impermanence into your life. There's already going to be impermanence in your life. You can't avoid that. But where you see that your mind is grabbing on and trying to get permanence, you would like to introduce impermanence. So let's just say you go to a restaurant and you tend to order exactly the same thing all the time. You'd like to switch it up, right? So that you're not getting attached to that. You're not getting to the point where the mind's craving it. It might already have craving. Or say you do the same things every week. Let's just say you have a certain group that you go to every Monday morning or every Monday evening. You'd like to switch it up. Sometimes go, sometimes don't go. If you take the same way to work every day, where you drive the same way to work every day, you would like to switch it up and find other routes to be able to go. Even if it takes a little bit longer to get to work, try different routes, because then it trains your mind to not crave permanence. When you're on that bus tour or you're going to a classroom regularly and you keep sitting in the same spot all the time, mix it up, sit in different places. You're not interested in giving the mind what it wants in those situations, which is the permanence. You would like to train the mind to not crave that permanence. So you're going to need to implement some impermanence into your life where the mind is otherwise trying to get permanence. So you can integrate some more impermanence than what it already experiences on a day-to-day basis, so that you don't allow the mind to grab on. So when someone's first getting on the path, it's almost like standing on the top of a garbage heap, that there's all these cravings that you don't even realize that you have. Like when I came here to Thailand, I had no idea that I had a craving for a certain fabric of underwear, because I grew up in the USA and we tend to wear cotton underwear there, right? When I came here, I couldn't find cotton underwear anywhere. And whenever I would put on this synthetic material, I would have difficulty sleeping. I couldn't sleep because the body was craving a certain fabric on the skin, right? So I needed to train my mind that that fabric is not permanent, and I needed to wear a different type of underwear. Or maybe you fall asleep every night with like a fan on in your room and there's a fan that's going, right? And now when you go to a hotel room that doesn't have that fan, maybe you have a difficulty sleeping. So it's almost like standing on top of this garbage heap of cravings that you don't even realize you have. And now when you start getting on the path, you start clearing those out. You start getting rid of those, where your mind can be peaceful and joyful and happy no matter what. Whether you have on cotton underwear or you have on some synthetic fabric, you can be peaceful and joyful. You can get a good night's sleep. You can experience wonderful things in your day-to-day life no matter what. Because with craving, desire, attachment in your mind, there's all these conditions that the mind has. It's like, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if I have this much money in the bank account, if I have this type of house, this type of car, if my brothers and sisters do this, yada, 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 then I will be happy. So your ability to be happy is actually shrinking the more cravings that you have. And what you're looking to do is get to the point where you have unconditional happiness. Because in this situation, it's conditional happiness, and all those conditions can't be met permanently. So you like to get rid of all of that and get to the point where your mind's having unconditional happiness. So you got to get rid of all this garbage where someone's standing on top of a garbage heap. You got to clean all that out, understanding that the mind is in the process of training. So in the process, you're picking up new cravings along the way. While you're trying to clean out your existing cravings, your mind's going to start picking up new cravings because it's not well disciplined at first. But eventually you'll clear out enough of your cravings and your mind is trained enough that you're not picking up new cravings. And now you clean out all of these cravings, desires, attachments, the mind's longing, yearning for permanence, and eventually you're on stable ground because you've cleaned out all this garbage. And now your mind can be peaceful and joyful. It can be steady and stable at all times. There's nothing that'll shake up your mind in your day-to-day life. So where you see your mind craving permanence, introduce some more impermanence so that the mind doesn't get a chance to grab on. And then more and more with this training, but also other training too. You need more than just the meditation. You need other training to train your mind to let go. With all of this culminating together, eventually the mind won't pick up any new cravings and your mind will just always be peaceful and joyful. And you'll see that's occurring because there are certain situations where you were once angry or frustrated, And you'll be in those exact same situations and your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. And you're like, whoa, this training is really working. That's the beauty of the teachings of the Buddha, that it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing in this life. And you can see your mind getting to more and more peacefulness because of various situations that you're in that you would normally get angry or frustrated. You're not experiencing that any longer. And you'll know that it's these teachings that are doing that for you. Other questions? All right. We have a question here. Yeah, you have a question. There's a microphone right there. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, what is the connection between meditation and Buddhism? And what role does meditation play in Buddhism? And what role does Buddhism play in meditation?
Sure. So meditation is like exercising the mind. That's what you're doing. There's more than just meditation. There's a core central teaching. It's called the Eightfold Path. There's 8 individual factors that the Buddha teaches, and that's what's going to guide you to enlightenment. You need to know this particular teaching inside and out, backwards and forwards, because everything else he teaches integrates into this. But meditation is one component of one of this. So out of the 8 factors, there's one aspect of this that is meditation. So if you do the math, it's about 6.25% of the path to enlightenment. But oftentimes people really emphasize meditation because they think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. So you'll see people meditating 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, which isn't feasible, which isn't sustainable. You're not going to be able to do that long term, especially as a household practitioner. You're going to need to meditate just 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, and if you can, get one in the middle of the day. And then you spend the rest of your day handling all your day-to-day activities. So the Buddha didn't sit around and meditate for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. He was out teaching. He was out helping people to understand how to get to enlightenment. So meditation is an important component of your practice because it's building wholesome qualities in your mind and it's eliminating certain unwholesome qualities. But now you use those wholesome qualities in your day-to-day life that you can interact with people. And now you have mindfulness or awareness of mind in the case of this meditation. And then when you're noticing in your day-to-day life the anger starting to arise, you can cut it off and let it go. If you've been meditating, you can do that because there's an early warning system that you have. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but you might notice before you get angry, there's like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system. It's alerting you, hey, you're about to get angry. Your mind's about to form a conditioned feeling. You're about to get frustrated. And what the Buddha teaches you to do is when you notice that bodily sensation coming, you cut it off and let it go. You don't suppress your feelings and you're not repressing your feelings. You're actually cutting it off before it becomes a feeling so that you don't allow the mind to form this conditioned feeling. So the meditation is helping you to build the qualities so that you can notice that. That's called mindfulness or awareness of mind. You can notice the arising of this discontent feeling, jealousy, embarrassment, disappointment, loneliness, guilt, shame. All of this stuff has bodily sensations. Like shyness, for example. People will say, I have butterflies in my stomach. This is just the bodily sensation of queasiness in your stomach. This is the early warning system alerting you're about to get shy. Right? You're about to experience this shyness, and that's an opportunity for you to cut it off and let it go if you're aware of it. And now if you do that enough in your day-to-day life with all the other practices, eventually it'll never arise, that you've eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing it. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is building mindfulness and that internal mechanism to cut off and let go. And it's also helping you build concentration or focus and clarity. Then there's other meditations like loving kindness meditation. That's helping you to eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. Sometimes people think that dislike is coming from the other person. You might have certain people you like and certain people you dislike. That dislike is actually coming from your own mind. It's not coming from the other person. The mind is having craving, desire, wants, and expectations. It's wanting everybody to be a certain way. And when people are that way, you're happy. You like them. But then when they don't do things your way, you dislike those people, right? So now you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to them. when the only thing that's happening here is impermanence. That's all it is. So you can train your mind to have love and kindness where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, so you're not bitter and harsh and hostile to people, because that's just damaging your relationships. And this loving kindness meditation, not only does it help you have loving kindness for others, but for yourself too. Because sometimes what the unenlightened mind has is you might have this inner dialogue where you're being degrading and diminishing to yourself. This is something that's common in the unenlightened mind, where you might be talking to yourself. You have this inner dialogue, this degrading and diminishing voice inside your head. You can eliminate that. You don't have to walk around with that. But people don't understand the tools and the techniques of how to actually eliminate it. So it's loving kindness meditation that's actually going to help you to eliminate that. And then knowing when it comes up in your mind to cut it off and let it go. So the breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation are actually working together to build certain wholesome qualities and eliminate certain unwholesome qualities out of the mind. This is the purification of the mind. That's what you're doing on the path to enlightenment, is you're purifying the mind. You're essentially becoming a better and better human being. So ultimately, by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's performing optimally, and there's no longer these unwholesome qualities. And meditation is a real catalyst to help you, but then there's work that you need to be doing all day long throughout your day-to-day life. Because if you were just meditating, building up your loving kindness, but then you went out into the world and you were hateful and bitter and hostile with people, you're not anywhere close to enlightenment, because an enlightened being is not going to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people. So these meditations are building those qualities, kind of like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you use those qualities in your day-to-day life, and that's where the real transformation is happening in your day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. Have a question? It just takes a second once you turn it on.
Yeah, it was more about what aspect of Buddhism teaches more about like the discernment, maybe, because where I come against the block often still is that I might be able to observe it and detach it, more when feelings arrive, or I can see it come more easily, but I'm still in those situations too often. And it's a little bit like like you can see that you're driving your car against a wall, and I can see the wall like 100 kilometers ahead, but just I can't seem to, find a brake or find a kind of a solution where to drive elsewhere.
Yeah.
And in that part, and also sometimes I do find like some things arise for example, if you get burned, it's a sign that you should take your hand off and not like, oh, I'm going to detach myself of the feeling of burning, because, it also sometimes signals for action. And so I know it sounded a little bit vague, my question, but like what path in Buddhism kind of touches more about that? I mean, the word for me is like discernment, where in your practice, there are at certain points through your experience of practice that like discernment needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. You're saying discernment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so discernment is wise decision making. Everything the Buddha taught is based on discernment, because that's what you're ultimately working to get to, is the point where your mind is able to make wise decisions 100% of the time. But when the mind has these pollutions that the Buddha discovered, you can't make wise decisions because the mind's shaken up. So like when you're angry or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, it's very difficult to make wise decisions. You can see in your life where you've made decisions through your anger or frustration, it's produced unwholesome results for you. So everything he taught is based in discernment. This is with an understanding of the natural law of karma. Some people call it karma. This is the Sanskrit version of that word. The word karma comes from the Pali language. So people who study the original words of the Buddha will tend to use the word karma. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that word. But what it means is it means cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's not about punishments or rewards. There's no being who's overseeing this, deciding who gets what. It's the results of your decisions. And when you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. So when you have the unwholesome roots in your mind, which is called craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, you will tend to make unwise decisions because the mind's polluted with these pollutions. And now the person might firmly believe they're making a good decision. And when they put that decision out, it produces unwholesome results for them. But the more that you train your mind and you get rid of these unwholesome roots and you bring in the wholesome roots, which is generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, as you bring that into your mind more and more and you function through that, now you'll make wiser and wiser decisions, and you can see it's producing more and more wholesome results in your life. So in order to get to that point where you're making 100% wise decisions, you're going to need to know the Eightfold Path inside and out. Based on what you just shared, it doesn't sound like you've studied the Eightfold Path very closely with the original words of the Buddha, which is understandable. Many people haven't done that. Even people who consider themselves lifelong Buddhists, they actually haven't studied with the original words of the Buddha to be able to see what he actually taught on this important topic. Whereas if you don't have the tools available, you're talking about not having the brakes, you can see the wall, but you don't have the brakes and things like that. That's because the tools that you need in order to do that are in the Eightfold Path. And when you study that and you practice it closely, then you'll have what you need to be able to now make wise decisions. Because by getting up and running on the Eightfold Path and practicing that for an extended period of time, you'll be making 100% wise decisions with discernment. And now when you do that for an extended period of time, there's still going to be unwholesome things coming back to you. Because in the past, we've made unwise decisions. And now if you could snap your fingers today and perfectly practice the Eightfold Path, you're still going to experience unwholesome things coming back to you because you've made unwise decisions in the past. This is the old unwholesome karma coming back. But the longer you live your life through the Eightfold Path, as those unwholesome things are coming back to you, you extinguish them, you bury it. And then eventually you get to the point where you're only making wise decisions and you're only experiencing wholesome results in your life. By the time someone gets to enlightenment, you're only experiencing wholesome results. You don't experience unwholesome karma. It's been all extinguished. So this is one of the reasons why the mind's so peaceful and so joyful. Of course, it's through training the mind, but you're not experiencing anything unwholesome. Right? By the time you get to enlightenment, you're not arguing with people. You're not yelling and hollering. They're not yelling and hollering at you and, do those kinds of things. Your mind doesn't do that. Your mind is completely protected. And even if somebody would say something disrespectful to you in the enlightened mental state, your mind's completely protected. Where now, if someone said something that was impolite, unkind, unfriendly, or disrespectful, you'd probably have certain feelings about that. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you just understand that's that person choosing to do that, and you would not choose to argue or fight or try to convince them to stop doing what they're doing. That's what the mind will tend to do in the unenlightened state because it feels these painful feelings and it wants to convince that person to stop doing what they're doing. And the mind thinks that that's the way to solve its painful feelings. But in reality, you need to be able to get to the point where you don't have a craving for everybody to do things a certain way. Now, this person who's being disrespectful, you might choose to not spend time with them, but your mind will be protected by that, where you won't be upset or angry or frustrated. You can maintain your joy. So everything the Buddha taught is based in discernment, but you need to be able to learn that Eightfold Path through his original words. And I have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, classes, courses, retreats where you can learn this. In fact, on Tuesday morning from 9 to 12:30, I'm going to be teaching that all the way through. We have a course coming up this week, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You're welcome to join where you can attend. It's no cost for you to join. It's over here in our classroom. And I'm going to be teaching the entire week. And I'm going to teach all the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to get on the path to enlightenment. And we're going to cap it off with a tour on Friday where I'm going to take students out to 2 temples outside the city, to a forest temple called Wat Tung, and to a temple up on the mountain called Wat Doi Suthep, where you'll be able to tour around through the temple and be able to learn all the artwork, architecture, and symbolism. But if you'd like to learn any part of that course, you're welcome to come for all of it or parts of it. It's really up to you based on your schedule. And if you can't attend live, I teach it every single month, the first full week of the month, and I also record it too. So it's been recorded many times on our YouTube channel and our podcast and things like this. So the entire path to enlightenment is all about discernment, but you need to be able to cultivate the wisdom to see what that discernment is and how to do that and have the tools and techniques to be able to do it. Other questions you guys might have? You have a question? Yes, sir. This gentleman's looking for a mic.
You kind of already touched upon it, but my question was, how can I'm going to be living in Chiang Mai for a while. How can I train and practice meditation on a daily basis? Is there a community? Is there a group that I can find? I mean, you mentioned that you're conducting something this week, so you touched upon it. But if I have to practice, I mean, without having to sign up for a retreat, I know places like Wat Tung actually offer retreats, 3-day minimum 3-day retreats. Now, my work does not allow me to sign up to commit to a retreat, a full-time retreat. So are there other things, another community I can possibly find?
Yeah. So from now all the way until next Sunday, a week from now, the next 7 days, I'm going to be in the classroom every day teaching. And at 9 a.m., we start with meditation, and then there's some talk afterwards. And you can come for the meditation, you can come for the talk, you can come for as long as you like. So it'll help you to build up your meditation practice. And then in the afternoon, we also meditate in that same course each afternoon. Ultimately, you'd like to build up a meditation practice where you can do it on your own, where you're not dependent to come to a place to be able to meditate. But as you're first getting started, it surely helps. So for us, if you'd like to come here, you're more than welcome to. And people will invite you to come in. We have a large community of practitioners who get together, and not everybody comes every day, but the people who do come, they'll be there to meditate. And if you'd like to join in meditation, you're more than welcome to. Okay. I don't see any other questions anywhere. Let me just check online here. Okay.
Can you also share your YouTube channel? You mentioned you have a YouTube channel.
Sure. If the best place to really see everything that we offer for you guys is on our website. So if you start there, which is buddhadailywisdom.com, that's a good place because you get free books, you get all the courses, classes, retreats, you see the event schedule and all that kind of stuff. We have brochures over there, and then the sign outside, you can see the website. The YouTube channel is called Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. So you can look it up that way too, but also from the website, you'll see all the online resources because there's lots of different resources to be able to learn. We have regular programs, we have courses, retreats. Oftentimes students say like there's so much, they don't even know where to start. So sometimes students come and talk to me and they say, hey, this is what my life is like. Where do you suggest that I start? And then I can kind of get you plugged in to the resources that you need, because you can get help in classes like this. You can post in our Facebook group and I'll help you. You can send me private messages and I will help you. Or you can even schedule personal guidance, either in person or online, because as you guys travel, you can schedule appointments. Because it's one thing to learn in classes and from books and all that stuff, but you're going to need someone to guide you. So when you're having difficulties in your day-to-day life, you can reach out to somebody and you can say, hey, look, I know you teach that my mind causes my own discontentedness, but my mom is doing this and that, and my boss is this, and my brothers are doing this, and how do I deal with all this stuff? I won't tell you what you should do necessarily, but I help you to be able to understand the teachings of the Buddha, how to train your mind to get to the peace and joy, and then you can make decisions that are best for you. But you're going to need guidance along the way. So there's a certain amount of learning in books and classes and videos and stuff like that, but you're going to need personal guidance as well from a teacher. So our website has all of that for you, and it's all available at no cost. There's never a time where I would ask you for anything. I'm just interested in helping you to be able to understand this path so that you can learn how to make your life better, how to transform your life, how to transform your mind. And you can see the teachings actually working as your mind's becoming more and more peaceful, and so are your relationships as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do, you have a question too? Okay, another question? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to harp on this if there's other questions, but if there is time, to follow up on the previous question of sort of...
It's just impermanent, that's all. It'll just cut in and out every once in a while.
This idea of introducing impermanence intentionally to help train the mind to be okay with it.
Yeah. It's on, don't worry. Just keep talking.
It may, but I feel because it seems in modern times, it seems in modern times that consistency and predictability is the virtue to pursue. And it's like in my day-to-day routines, when I'm trying to create a work routine, I try to fall into a rhythm and do things in a repeatable, predictable way to get into the zone. And these things we value in society, like every batch of French fries at McDonald's and every iPhone that rolls off the assembly line, they're perfectly predictable and consistent. And so it just seems like I feel like conflict trying to pursue, chaos and unpredictability in this world that values predictability.
Yeah. So how's that working out for you? Are you really peaceful? Are you really joyful with that routine? No, right? You don't even have to turn on the mic. I can hear it, right? Exactly, right? So that's what the mind's going to keep doing. It's going to keep grasping and trying to hold on and trying to keep getting this permanence, and you can't get it. That's the thing with the mind. It just keeps trying to grab on and try to get all this permanence. The beautiful thing about this and the ironic thing about this is that the mind doesn't like impermanence. It craves permanence, right? By the time you get to enlightenment, you're actually going to get what you've wanted all along, which is a permanent mental state of peace and joy. But you can't get to that permanence that your mind wants until you get comfortable with impermanence. You need to train your mind to be comfortable with impermanence, then you're going to get permanent peace and permanent joy. So you need to be able to introduce impermanence into your life. You'll have certain standard things, like for me, like I have a certain schedule, right? Like every month I teach this class, this course, the first full week of the month, and I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. I start at 9 o'clock and things like this. But there's impermanence along the way, right? There's occasional times, maybe once a year, where there's traffic and I can't get here by 9 o'clock. It's normal. It's impermanence, right? And I just make my way here. I might get here at 9:05, 9:15. The students are waiting, and I'm just like, okay, well, I apologize. I was running behind schedule. There was a lot of traffic today, a lot of rain. I'm going to start class now, right? And if somebody got angry or mad, I didn't cause that. That's their own mind, right? So it's going to happen. Impermanence is going to happen. I teach here. I teach over there. I teach in the USA. I travel other places and teach. I'm not teaching in the same place all the time, but the goal is the same. I'm still working towards the same goal, which is to help people understand the path to enlightenment. But there's going to be changes. Yesterday when I was teaching, the internet wasn't working. So typically I live stream every single class, but you can't because of impermanence. The internet's not going to be working sometimes, right? But if you're craving permanence, you'll be frustrated and angry when you can't live stream, for example, right? So you're going to encounter impermanence along the way. And this introducing impermanence into your life, it's not something I recommend you do right off the beginning, right? You need to be able to get to the core central teachings first, build up your mind, build up the qualities of your mind. And now 6 months, a year into your practice, that's where it's really best to start introducing some impermanence into your life. But that's what's going to ultimately help your mind. If you just keep trying to create these routines and this fixed schedule where you're always doing the same thing, even though other people around you are craving that, you'll drive yourself crazy. You'll have madness and frustration. And other people who are constantly trying to put expectations on you for that permanence, there's ways for you to be able to help people to understand that that's not the case. So like when I come to class, and if, once a year, once every 2 years, I'm not there on time, I just let the students know, hey, I'm sorry, apologize. This is impermanence. I wasn't able to get here on time this morning, but I'm going to start class now. And then they understand, right? And the people who got angry and left, and maybe they're going to leave a bad Google review or something like this, who knows? That's their own anger. That's their own hostility. I'm not the cause of that. So you're going to have people that as you're practicing and you're not craving permanence, they're going to be craving permanence, and they're going to be putting expectations on you. They're going to get angry, but they're going to choose to go out of your life. And that's fine. If you're not attached to the relationship and you're not holding on to it, craving for it to be permanent, when these people choose to leave, ultimately what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with a bunch of people who are very committed to you, who are very loyal to you, that are interested in seeing you be well. They're not just putting demands on you and expectations on you. Because if this person can only be happy when you do things their way, that's not a very healthy relationship anyway. And if that person chooses to leave out of your life because you won't do things their way, that was a benefit for you. Because now you've got people around you that aren't constantly putting demands on you and trying to get you to do things their way. So introducing impermanence, yes, it's something that I would recommend for you to do, but not when you're first getting started. The Eightfold Path is what you would like to learn when you're first getting started. Okay, so I'm going to end class by thanking all of you guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn. As you guys heard, if you'd like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for that. You can see our website. You can see our classes. In fact, tonight at 9 p.m., I'm going to be over in the classroom. I'm going to do meditation with students, and then I'm going to teach a topic. It's called Mental Health and Modern Day Delusion. This is where you can learn about things like ADHD, ADD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, bulimia, anorexia. There's actual solutions for this in the teachings of the Buddha. Oftentimes people are taught that this is a chemical imbalance in the brain or that the brain is defective. This isn't actually true. If you train your mind, you can actually eliminate the symptoms that you're experiencing. So if you or people around you are experiencing these kinds of things, you can actually learn how to train your mind and get to the point where you're not experiencing those symptoms anymore. So if you'd like to learn that, it's going to be at 9 p.m. this evening over in our classroom. You'll see the lights on over there. You're welcome to come on in and join us over there. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your evening. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap, sawadee krap, sawadee krap.